The most extraordinary event that is happening is actually in Ukraine. The protests, which have been ongoing for more than 3 months now, have suddenly become extremely violent, and something like 100 people have been killed in the last 3 days. This is both unexpected and in some ways difficult to explain. At the same time, we have the quite unusual and perhaps again unprecedented presence of three European foreign ministers negotiating on behalf of the protesters with President Yanukovych of Ukraine. The EU chief, Catherine Ashton, has made more than one visit with a combination of threats and inducements on offer. The President of the United States has spoken and threatened and put in place already sanctions. The Russian President has not said a great deal, perhaps because he has been busy with the Sochi Olympics, but he is certainly a big player in all this. It's an extraordinary situation because the Ukrainians would appear to be punished for having stepped back from a trade agreement with the European Union. On the other hand, it is abundantly clear that the Russians are buying closeness to the Ukrainians through the offer of a $15 billion support loan and through some level of emotional and historical recalling of the ties between the two people. It is unusual, though, to find such open advocacy of the demands of protesters, and not only by making statements in your own capitals, but by the actual presence of all these high-ranking officials in Kyiv today. Although events have not reached this crescendo in either Thailand or Venezuela, where as well there has been violence in the last few days, and one of the courts in Thailand has given the extraordinary direction to the government that it cannot use force in trying to hold back protesters who have begun to occupy government buildings. The protesters have also come up with a novel form of protest, that of gherawing, as we would say in India, or encircling the business premises of the Prime Minister and her family, and their shares have actually fallen in value. On the other hand, in Venezuela, the opposition is being represented by more than one person. One of the leaders has handed himself over to the police, whereas others continue to call for defiance and for protesters to remain on the streets. The economy in Venezuela, one of the largest potential producers of oil, is a shambles. And there is no question that there has been major frustration and reservations about the violence which now grips especially the capital city, but the actual decline in the economy, which is affecting everybody now, rich and poor. And the successor, Maduro, does not have the charisma of his predecessor, Hugo Chavez, and is unlikely to survive the present protests. In Thailand, again, what the outcome will depend on what the king, the monarch, chooses to do and how it is presented by those close to him, since he has been unwell for some years now and mostly does not appear in public. Within India itself, there has been a lot of political theatre. The Aam Aadmi Party has resigned as the government of New Delhi. This resignation is an event foretold because it was clear that the party was not willing to negotiate any aspect of the Lokpal bill that is wanted accepted by the assembly, even though it is in a minority and formed the government only with the support of the Congress party. Um, More noisy and perhaps of national significance is the creation of the state of Telangana after a more than 70-year struggle by the people. The emergence of this state would perhaps not have been unusual and need not have been such a complicated affair, as three other states were created out of Madhya Pradesh and Bihar by the earlier government. But the manner in which this has been done had damaged our parliamentary institutions further. Nevertheless, we should now expect that despite protests, despite reservations, the bifurcation of Andhra Pradesh will begin to be accepted and eventually things will settle down. It will be quite important to see whether any damage is done to the thriving IT industry and environmental industries that have sprung up in and around Hyderabad.